Singapore has begun 7 days of national mourning following the death of its founding father, Lee Kuan Yew. Mr. Lee, who was 91, led Singapore's transformation from a small port city to one of the wealthiest nations in the world. World leaders have paid tribute to Mr. Lee, who served as the city-state's prime minister for 31 years. U.S. President Barack Obama described him as a giant of history whose advice had been sought by other world leaders. The Chinese Foreign Ministry called him a uniquely influential statesman in Asia, and UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said he was deeply saddened by Mr. Lee's death. The period of national mourning will culminate in a state funeral next Sunday, and Mr. Lee's body is to lie in state at Parliament from Wednesday to Saturday. A private family wake is taking place on Monday and Tuesday. News of Mr. Lee's death came in a government statement that said he had passed away peacefully in the early hours of Monday at Singapore General Hospital. Mr. Lee had been in hospital for several weeks with pneumonia and was on life support. State television broke away from its normal schedules and broadcast rolling tributes. A steady stream of Singaporeans, many openly grieving, arrived at the hospital, where an area has been set aside for flowers and other tributes. "I'm so sad. He is my idol. He's been so good to me, my family and everyone," said resident Louis Yin, 64. His biggest achievement is that from zero he's built up today's Singapore. Many other people have lined up outside the Istana, the compound housing the president's official residence and the prime minister's office, where a book of condolence has been placed. Some chanted "Mr. Lee, Mr. Lee" as a hearse carrying the former leader's body arrived at the compound on Monday. In an emotional televised address, Mr. Lee's son, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, paid tribute to him. "He fought for our independence, built a nation where there was none, and made us proud to be Singaporeans. We won't see another man like him," he said. Singapore's Foreign Minister, K. Shanmugam, told the BBC's Newsday programme that Mr. Lee was George Washington and Churchill combined for Singaporeans. "There is deep sense of loss, a deep sense of grief," he said. Lee Kuan Yew, widely known Lky, oversaw Singapore's independence from Britain and separation from Malaysia, and co-founded the People's Action Party, PAP, which has governed Singapore since 1959. Mr. Lee set about creating a highly educated workforce fluent in English, and reached out to foreign investors to turn Singapore into a manufacturing hub. He embarked on a program of slum clearance, industrialization, and tackling corruption. He was a fierce advocate of a multiracial Singapore. However, Mr. Lee also introduced tight controls, and one of his legacies was a clampdown on the press, tight restrictions that remain in place today. Dissent, and political opponents, were ruthlessly quashed. Today, PAP remains firmly in control. There are currently 6 opposition lawmakers in Parliament. Other measures, such as corporal punishment, a ban on chewing gum, and the government's foray into matchmaking for Singapore's brightest, to create smarter babies, led to perceptions of excessive state interference. Mr. Lee criticized what he saw as the overly liberal approach of the US and the West, saying it had come at the expense of orderly society.